My best friend refused to tell me who she was marrying. Then I discovered her groom was my boyfriend of 4 years. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 29 years old, and 3 days ago, I discovered that my boyfriend of 4 years was secretly preparing to marry one of my oldest friends. There's a folder on my laptop filled with screenshots, emails, photographs, venue confirmations, and a wedding registry. Every time I open it, some part of me still expects the names to change. They never do. Ethan Carter and Olivia Hayes, groom and bride. Ethan is 27. We'd been together for 4 years and living together for 2. I work in IT, he works in event planning, so wedding season can make his schedule chaotic. We split the rent 50-50, shared groceries, took turns cooking, and had Thursday date nights unless one of us had to work late. We talked seriously about marriage, where we wanted to live, and whether we wanted 1 child or 2. I thought we were solid. About 6 weeks ago, Ethan started acting differently. He wasn't suddenly distant or cold. He still slept beside me, kissed me goodbye, and behaved normally enough that I didn't immediately suspect anything. I was just distracted. His phone started following him everywhere. If it rang while we were watching television, he'd take the call in another room. If a message came through during dinner, he'd glance at the screen, smile, and turn the phone face down. One night, I teased him. "You've become very popular lately. Wedding season." That explains the secret phone calls. He stole one of my fries. Clients panic. Brides panic. Grooms panic. Everyone thinks their centerpiece emergency is a national crisis. It sounded believable, so I let it go. Around the same time, Olivia dropped her own surprise. Olivia was 31 and we'd known each other since college. We didn't see each other every week anymore, but we still met for drinks, remembered birthdays, and called each other when life went wrong. As far as I knew, she was single. Then one afternoon over coffee, she stirred her drink and said, "I'm getting married." I laughed because I thought she was joking. She didn't. Wait, seriously? Seriously? When? 3 weeks? I nearly dropped my cup. "Olivia, I didn't even know you were dating anyone." We kept it private. We? Her smile tightened. "It's complicated." "That's not a name." She gave a small, forced laugh. "You'll meet him." "When?" "At the wedding." I'd known Olivia for 8 years. Something about her expression bothered me. "Am I invited?" There was the slightest pause. Of course. The invitation never came. A few days later, I was talking to Olivia on the phone in our kitchen while Ethan searched the refrigerator behind me. "So when exactly is this secret wedding?" I asked. "Saturday, 3 weeks from now." Behind me, the refrigerator door stopped moving. I ended the call and turned around. Ethan was standing with one hand still on the handle. "What?" "Nothing." He closed the refrigerator, then said almost too casually, "Actually, I forgot to mention something. I'm working a wedding that Saturday." Olivia's. A beat past. Yeah, small world. Very. At the time, I accepted it. A week later, I didn't. Ethan started going to the gym at strange hours. He bought new shirts, shoes, and expensive cologne, even though the bottle I'd given him for Christmas was barely half empty. Then there were the constant errands, vendor meetings, pickup runs, venue problems, and last-minute client emergencies. Every excuse made sense by itself, but together they started sounding rehearsed. One night over takeout, I asked, "How's Olivia's wedding going?" "Fine." "Where is it?" "The venue." "Yeah, that boutique place downtown." "Which one?" "Near the river." There were several venues near the river. "What's it called?" I looked down at his food. "You wouldn't know it. It's new." Then he changed the subject. That was when I knew something was wrong, even if I couldn't name it yet. 4 nights later, Ethan was upstairs showering. His laptop was open on the dining table because he'd been answering work emails before he went up. I wasn't trying to snoop. I walked past carrying laundry when a notification appeared in the corner of the screen. Wedding registry. Final changes approved. That alone meant nothing. Weddings were his job. Then I saw the preview. Ethan Carter and Olivia Hayes. I put the laundry basket down and clicked. A registry website opened. At the top were their names. Olivia Hayes. Ethan Carter. For a few seconds, my brain tried to convince me there had to be another Ethan Carter. Then I saw the photographs. My Ethan, standing beside Olivia and smiling. They had registered for dishes, bedding, cookware, towels, and a KitchenAid mixer. Several gifts had already been purchased, including one from Ethan's mother and another from Olivia's sister. My hands started shaking. I opened another email. I found the venue confirmation, rehearsal dinner plans, guest list, and messages with Olivia's sister about bridesmaid dresses. Then I found the messages between Ethan and Olivia. 8 months. This wasn't flirting or a one-time mistake. It was a relationship. Can't wait until you're finally my husband. Neither can I. Just a little longer. One of Ethan's replies had been sent at 11:43 p.m. I remembered that night. He'd been lying beside me in bed. Then I found another exchange. Olivia, are you sure Claire suspects nothing? Ethan, she trusts me. Olivia, I hate lying like this. Ethan, it's almost over. She trusts me. Those 3 words stayed with me. The shower stopped upstairs. I moved fast. I took screenshots, downloaded files, copied what I could onto a flash drive, cleared the browser history, closed everything, and carried the laundry upstairs. By the time Ethan came down, I was sitting on the couch with the television on. You okay? He asked. Yeah. You look pale. Long day. I leaned down and kissed my forehead. Get some rest, babe. Love you. My throat tightened. Love you too. For the next 3 days, I pretended. I went to work, came home, ate dinner beside him, and watched him smile at messages whose sender I could now guess. I didn't confront him. I built the folder instead. Through a social media post from one of Olivia's relatives, I eventually found the exact venue. Saturday, 3:08 p.m. Ethan told me he'd need to leave early that morning because the wedding required extra setup. Big day, I asked. Nye gave me a quick kiss. You have no idea. I was right. Because by then, I'd already bought something for Saturday too. Not a wedding gift. A dress. And while Ethan prepared to marry one of my oldest friends, I prepared to sit in the back row with 8 months of proof. Saturday morning, Ethan left just after 7. Hein thought I was asleep, but I heard drawers opening, the closet door sliding, and the quiet zip of a garment bag. Before leaving, he kissed my temple. I'll be back late. I opened my eyes just enough to see him dressed in dark trousers and a white shirt. Big event. Biggest one this month. Good luck. Thanks, babe. The door closed behind him. For a while, I sat on the edge of the bed looking at the empty space beside me. The night before, he'd eaten Thai food with me, complained about table assignments, and fallen asleep with his hand against my hip. Now he was going to marry Olivia. I got up, made coffee, and checked the folder one final time. By noon, I stopped reading. I showered, did my hair, put on makeup, and changed into a simple dark green dress. Nothing dramatic. I wasn't going there to compete with a bride. At 2:00, I left. The venue was an upscale garden property near the river, hidden behind iron gates and old trees. When I arrived at 2:43, guests were already walking in carrying gifts. I sat in my car for a minute, then grabbed the folder and went inside. Nobody questioned me. Rows of white chairs faced a flower-covered arch. Soft music played through hidden speakers. There were around 70 guests, and I recognized almost no one. No shared friends. No co-workers. Nobody from my family. That was deliberate. Ethan had built a wedding where my existence wouldn't complicate anything. I found a seat near the back. At 2:58, the music changed and everyone stood. Then Ethan walked out. I wasn't dressed like an event planner. He was wearing a tuxedo. I knew he would be, but seeing him there was different. He looked nervous, excited, almost happy. Then he turned toward the aisle. Olivia appeared in a white dress with her father beside her. She was smiling. Weeks earlier, she'd sat across from me over coffee and promised I'd meet the man she was marrying at the wedding. Technically, she hadn't lied about that part. She reached the altar, and Ethan took her hands. Neither of them looked toward the back. The officiant began speaking about love, trust, commitment, and choosing one another. Then came the part I'd been waiting for. If anyone present knows of any lawful or serious reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now. I stood. I object. Every head turned. Ethan saw me first. The color drained from his face. Olivia turned next, and her smile disappeared. Claire, Ethan said. I stepped into the aisle with the folder at my side. Olivia grabbed his arm. What is she doing here? I stopped several rows from the altar. Sorry to interrupt. I just thought everyone should have some context before this continues. Ethan stepped forward. You need to leave. No. Claire, this isn't the place. You're right. Our apartment probably would have been better. Unfortunately, you never mentioned you were getting married. The crowd went silent. Olivia's father looked between us. Ethan shook his head. She's upset. We broke up months ago. There it was. The prepared story. I opened the folder. Interesting, because this is a message you sent me Tuesday night. I read it aloud. Don't wait up, babe. Love you. See you at home. A murmur spread through the guests. Ethan's jaw tightened. That doesn't mean anything. Then this might. I held up a copy of our lease. Both our names, same apartment, renewed 6 months ago. Olivia turned toward him. Ethan? I looked at the guests. He's been living with me for 2 years. We've been together for 4. A woman in the second row covered her mouth. Olivia's mother stood. What is she talking about? She's lying, Olivia said quickly. Am I? I held up the registry, then another page. You two registered for dishes, towels, bedding, cookware. Meanwhile, Ethan and I were still discussing our lease and having date night last week. I handed one of the pages to the nearest guest. Check the names. The paper moved through the row. Ethan came down 1 step. Give me that. No. You're humiliating yourself. That almost made me laugh. Me? You're standing at an altar marrying my friend while your clothes are still hanging beside mine. Phones started appearing. Olivia looked around. Can everyone stop filming? Nobody did. The officiant stepped forward. Perhaps we should pause the ceremony. We're way past that. I pulled out another screenshot. This is a message Ethan sent Olivia 3 months ago. Can't wait until you're finally my wife. I held up the timestamp. 12:43 p.m. He sent it while he was lying in bed beside me. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Olivia's father turned toward Ethan. Did you know she was still with him? Ethan looked at Olivia. Olivia's expression changed. You said this was handled. I stared at her. Handled? Ethan's eyes flashed. Olivia. What? She snapped. You told me she'd be gone before the wedding. That was the first clear confirmation that Olivia wasn't simply another victim of his lies. She may not have known everything, but she knew enough. Ethan grabbed her wrist. Stop talking. She pulled away. You said she knew it was over. I knew nothing, I said. Olivia looked at me. I thought you two were basically finished. Really? I pulled out one more screenshot. Ethan. Dinner Thursday. Claire. Our usual place. Ethan. Obviously. Date night is sacred. Does that look finished? Olivia turned on him. You told me she was only living there because of the lease. Ethan's expression hardened. And you told me Claire would never find out about the venue. They were turning on each other in front of everyone. I faced the guests. Show of hands. Who here knew Ethan had a girlfriend? Nobody moved. Right. Olivia started crying, but the tears looked more angry than sad. You ruined everything. I ruined it? This is my wedding. I paid half the rent on the apartment your groom woke up in yesterday. The crowd erupted again. Ethan stepped between us. Enough. No, you don't get to decide when enough is. You wanted a scene. Congratulations. I wanted the truth. You invaded my privacy. You were secretly marrying someone else. It's complicated. No, Ethan, it really isn't. Then Olivia finally cracked. Fine. Yes, he was with both of us. Ethan turned toward her. Olivia. She ignored him. But he chose me. The room went quiet again. He always said you were the safe choice, she said. The apartment, the routine, someone he knew would stay. Ethan didn't deny it. After 4 years of dinners, birthdays, trips, and conversations about a future together, I had apparently been his backup life. I closed the folder. Good to know. Claire, no, you don't get to explain this today. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, voices exploded. Olivia's mother demanded answers. Guests argued. Someone asked whether the ceremony was cancelled. Then Olivia screamed. You promised she wouldn't find out. Ethan shouted back. You told me Claire was completely out of your life months ago. That told me everything I needed to know. They hadn't just lied to me. They'd been lying to each other too. Near the exit, a man stepped into my path. I recognized him from photographs. Olivia's older brother, Daniel. I looked stunned. I had no idea. I believed him. Seriously, he said. None of us did. He glanced back toward the ceremony, then at the folder in my hand. You want to get out of here? More than anything. There's a bar 10 minutes away. I looked back once. The floral arch was still standing. The music had stopped. Olivia was crying. Ethan was shouting. 70 guests were discovering that the love story they'd come to celebrate had been built on lies. I could really use a drink. Daniel drove us to the bar. 2 of Olivia's cousins joined us. Once we sat down, Daniel pushed a beer toward me. For what it's worth, Olivia told everyone she'd been single for years. One of her cousins added, she barely talked about Ethan until they got engaged. We thought they were just private. That explained why nobody at the wedding had recognized me. My phone kept vibrating with calls and messages from Ethan, Olivia, mutual friends, and unknown numbers. I blocked Ethan and Olivia. Daniel glanced at me. "You're not going back to that apartment tonight, are you?" "I need my laptop, clothes, and work stuff." "Not alone." He offered me his guest room. Under normal circumstances, staying with my friend's brother after blowing up her wedding would have sounded absurd. I accepted. Over the next few hours, we heard what happened after we left. The ceremony never resumed. Olivia and Ethan started shouting at each other, then blamed the venue staff for letting me inside. Security eventually escorted Ethan away after he argued with employees. The venue charged them anyway. Olivia's parents had paid for a large part of the wedding and refused to discuss financing another one. I didn't celebrate. I was exhausted. The next morning, Daniel and one of his cousins went with me to the apartment. My key didn't work. I tried again. Nothing. "Did you change the locks?" Daniel asked. "No." I called Ethan. Han ignored the call but texted seconds later. "You humiliated me." "Stay away," I replied. "I'm on the lease. I need my belongings." "You don't live here anymore." I called the landlord and kept the explanation simple. We broke up. Ethan changed the locks without permission, and both our names are on the lease. He changed the locks? Apparently. I didn't authorize that. The landlord arrived less than an hour later with a master key. Ethan was inside. The second the door opened, he came into the hallway. "What the hell?" The landlord stepped in front of me. "Ethan, you cannot change these locks without approval." "I don't want her here." "She's on the lease." "She's harassing me." Daniel took out his phone. "I'm recording from this point forward." Ethan glared at him. "Taking her side now?" "I'm taking the side where nobody gets locked out of a home they're legally renting." I didn't argue with Ethan. "I'm here for my things. Take them." I went straight to the bedroom and packed clothes, my laptop, documents, and anything else I couldn't easily replace. Daniel and his cousin carried boxes downstairs. Ethan followed me from room to room. "You proud of yourself?" I kept packing. "You destroyed an entire wedding." Still packing. "My family won't speak to me. Olivia's family thinks I'm a monster." I finally turned. "And whose fault is that?" "You could have talked to me privately." "You were going to marry Olivia privately." "You know what I mean." "No, Ethan, I don't. You had 8 months to tell me." I had no answer. I carried a suitcase into the living room and stopped. My gaming console was cracked through the casing. My headphones had been snapped in half. The leather jacket my father had given me had 2 long cuts through the back. Daniel saw them too. "What did you do?" I asked Ethan. He folded his arms. "Don't know what you're talking about." The landlord looked at the broken console. "Was this damaged before today?" "No." Ethan shrugged. "Prove it." Daniel's phone was still recording. I took photographs of every damaged item, including the serial number on the console, then finished packing. As I carried the final box out, Ethan said, "Olivia was right about you." "What does that mean?" "You're cold." Yesterday he'd been preparing to marry another woman. Today he'd locked me out of our apartment. And my belongings were destroyed. "I think we're past the point where your opinion of me matters." Then I left. The next morning, I filed a report documenting the damaged property. I wasn't expecting some dramatic arrest. I wanted a record of what I'd found, especially after Ethan had accused me of harassment. That afternoon, Olivia called from a number I didn't recognize. "Claire, what do you want?" "I need to explain." "No, you don't." "Please, just listen for 2 minutes." I stayed silent. "Ethan told me you two were basically over." "Then why couldn't you tell me who you were marrying?" I didn't answer. "Why didn't you send me an invitation?" More silence. I was scared. "Of what?" "That you'd misunderstand." "No, you were scared I'd understand perfectly." Her voice cracked. "Claire!" "We've known each other 8 years, Olivia. You had my number the entire time." "I know. One call, one question. That's all it would have taken." I hung up and blocked the number. A few minutes later, Daniel knocked on the guest room door. "You okay?" "No." It was the first honest answer I'd given anyone since finding the registry. "But I will be." My phone buzzed again. This time it was the landlord. "Claire, we need to discuss the rent and the lease." Leaving Ethan didn't mean I was finished dealing with the life we'd shared. The landlord called that afternoon because Ethan's half of the rent was 3 days overdue. I had already paid mine, but while both our names remained on the lease, the unpaid balance could affect both of us. "I have your payment," the landlord said. Ethan says you're responsible for the full amount now. Why? He says you caused financial hardship by disrupting his wedding. I actually thought I'd misheard him. He said that? He did. I called my lawyer immediately. Daniel had connected me with someone he trusted after what happened at the apartment. She confirmed that Ethan couldn't simply assign his share of the rent to me, but as long as both our names remained on the lease, an unpaid balance could damage my rental history too. Protect your record first, she advised. Then document what he owes you and pursue reimbursement. I hated it, but I paid Ethan's half and saved the receipt. My lawyer added it to the file with the photographs of the damaged property, messages about the lock change, and the landlord's documentation. The next morning, Mia, a mutual friend, sent me a screenshot. Ethan had posted online about escaping a controlling relationship and finally finding the courage to choose real love. Hein didn't use my name, but anyone who knew us understood who he meant. According to Ethan, our relationship had been emotionally over for months, and my behavior at the wedding proved why he'd been afraid to tell me the truth. Some people believed him. One acquaintance messaged me. If he left you for someone else, maybe publicly humiliating him wasn't necessary. I replied, Hein didn't leave me. He lived with me while secretly planning to marry someone else. The response came a minute later. Okay, that's very different. I didn't want an online war, but I wasn't going to let Ethan rewrite the timeline either. So I posted a short statement. Ethan and I were together for 4 years and lived together for 2. We were still sharing an apartment and presenting ourselves as a couple while he planned a wedding with Olivia without telling me. I discovered the wedding by accident 3 days before the ceremony. That was all. I included a cropped image showing both names on the current lease, with personal information removed. People started asking Ethan questions he couldn't answer. If we'd broken up months earlier, why were we still living together as a couple? Why had he texted me "love you" days before the wedding? Why did Olivia's family believe he was available? Why hadn't I been told he was engaged? Ethan deleted his post within hours. The next day, he came to my workplace. I'd already warned security that he might show up, so they stopped him in the lobby. A few minutes later, he called. My manager was in my office and suggested I put the call on speaker. What do you want? I asked. You need to stop telling people lies about me. I posted the timeline. You've ruined my reputation. I didn't make you secretly plan a wedding. He exhaled sharply. Nobody will talk to me. Olivia's family hates me. Then he said, you owe me money. My manager looked up. What money? The wedding. I thought he had to be joking. The venue, flowers, catering. Thousands were wasted because you showed up. You were marrying someone else while living with me. That doesn't mean you had the right to destroy the ceremony. You destroyed it when you built it on a lie? His voice hardened. Olivia and I could have handled this if you hadn't turned everyone against us. You had 8 months to handle it. I kept my voice calm. Do not come to my workplace again. If you think I owe you money, have a lawyer contact mine. I'll sue you. Then do that. I ended the call. Security escorted him out, and my manager documented the incident in case he returned. By the end of the week, the apartment had become the bigger problem. Ethan still hadn't reimbursed me for the rent I'd covered, and the landlord wanted a decision about the lease. I had no intention of moving back after the lock change and damaged property. My lawyer contacted the landlord formally. After reviewing the documentation, he agreed to release me early as long as the account remained current while the paperwork was completed. That was why paying Ethan's missing share had mattered. I started looking for apartments closer to work. Daniel sat across from me at his kitchen table while I scrolled through listings. Found anything? 1 bedroom about 15 minutes from the office. Expensive? Everything is expensive. He laughed. Fair. Then the landlord called. Claire, given the unauthorized lock change, the documented damage, and everything you've provided, I'm willing to release you from the lease early. Thank you. But Ethan says he's staying. That's his decision. He also says he won't be able to make the next rent payment on time. I looked around Daniel's guest room at the boxes containing what remained of my old life. Send me whatever I need to sign. You're sure? Completely. 3 weeks after the wedding, I moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from work. Daniel helped carry the boxes. By sunset, everything I still owned fit inside a place Ethan had never touched. The apartment was smaller than our old one, but my key worked. That alone felt good. My release from the old lease became official. Ethan stayed, insisting he could handle the rent alone. I couldn't. A few days after missing another payment, he called me from an unfamiliar number. Claire, please don't hang up. What do you want? I need help with the apartment. I'm not on the lease anymore. I know I'm behind on rent. Then talk to the landlord. I already did. His voice dropped. The company let me go. Why? Clients started asking questions after the wedding. Management decided I was bad for business. I didn't know what to say to that. Then Ethan continued, if I don't pay, the landlord's starting eviction proceedings. You'll have to find somewhere else. Where? I don't know. You really don't care? That question would have crushed me once. No, not anymore. I hung up. Ethan eventually moved back in with his parents. The landlord began eviction proceedings against Ethan for the unpaid rent, while my lawyer continued pursuing reimbursement for the rent I'd covered and the property that had been destroyed. Ethan had little income and no meaningful assets, so I wasn't expecting quick repayment. At least my name was no longer attached to his apartment. 2 weeks after moving, I ran into Olivia at a coffee shop near my office. I was waiting for my order when I heard my name. Claire. She stood a few feet behind me in jeans and a sweater, looking nothing like the woman who had walked down the aisle in a white dress. Hi, she said. Hi. Can we talk? I don't think there is much left to talk about. 2 minutes. Against my better judgment, I took my coffee to an empty table. Olivia sat across from me. Ethan and I are done. Okay. I moved back home. Okay. My family barely talks to me. What do you want me to say? I want you to understand what happened. I understand enough. No, you don't. Ethan told me you two were basically roommates. He said the relationship had been over for months and you were only sharing the apartment because of the lease. We had date nights every week. I didn't know. You saw us together at my company holiday party. He told me you were keeping up appearances. Did he have an explanation for everything? Pretty much. And you believed all of it? She didn't answer. And every time something didn't add up, you chose his explanation over what you already knew about us. I was scared. Of what? She finally looked directly at me. That you'd tell me he was lying. That was probably the first completely honest thing she'd said. You didn't want the truth. Her eyes filled. I wanted him. Exactly. I thought he chose me. He did? She shook her head. No, he chose whatever story let him keep both of us until the wedding. I couldn't argue with that. When you showed up, she continued, I realized how much he'd lied to me too. You still knew enough to hide the wedding. I know. You wouldn't tell me who you were marrying. You didn't send me an invitation. You knew something was wrong and chose not to ask. You're right. She wiped beneath one eye. I'm sorry. I believed she was sorry now. That didn't change anything. Is there any chance that someday we could fix this? No. The answer came easily. Olivia looked down. I figured. You didn't lose our friendship at the wedding. You lost it every time you decided not to ask me the truth. She nodded. I deserve that. I stood. Take care of yourself, Olivia. Claire! I stopped. For what it's worth, Ethan really did tell me you two were over. And for what it's worth, you knew him because I introduced you. You knew what our relationship looked like before he started rewriting it for you. You chose the version that gave you what you wanted. She had no answer. I left. That evening, Daniel called while I was unpacking the last box. How's the new place? Almost looks like someone lives here. That's progress. After a pause, he said, I heard you ran into Olivia. News travels fast in your family. Unfortunately. She apologized. And I told her we're done. Probably the right call. He invited me to dinner with his family that weekend. It still felt strange that Olivia's brother had become one of the people I trusted most during the worst month of my life, but Daniel never made excuses for what his sister had done. Hal was just there when I needed help. Nothing more. At the bottom of the final moving box was a framed photograph of Ethan and me from 2 years earlier. We were standing on a beach, his arm around my waist, both smiling at the camera. I took the photograph out, folded it once, and dropped it into the trash. Then I replaced it with a picture Daniel had taken on moving day. I was sitting on the floor surrounded by boxes, laughing because we'd assembled my bookshelf backward. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. As the weeks passed, my life got quieter. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner for one, and stopped checking my phone every time it buzzed. Daniel and I stayed friends. A few members of Olivia's family did too. One Saturday, Daniel invited me to a barbecue. Mom specifically said, you're invited. She also made too much food, so refusing may actually offend her. I went. Olivia wasn't there. Her mother hugged me at the door. I should have known something was wrong. You couldn't have known. I still feel terrible. You were lied to too. She handed me a plate, and that was the last time anyone mentioned the wedding that afternoon. My own family reacted differently. My mother agreed Ethan had betrayed me, but thought I should have handled it privately. You didn't need to stop the wedding in front of everyone. Mom, he was marrying someone else. You could have confronted him before the ceremony and given him another chance to lie, she sighed. I just don't like public scenes. Neither do I. That ended the conversation. I didn't regret standing up at the wedding, but I also stopped replaying it. What surprised me more was that I didn't miss Ethan as much as I expected. I missed some memories, Sunday breakfast, road trips, inside jokes. But I didn't miss the man who had spent months building another life while coming home to me. I started therapy because I didn't want what happened to follow me into every relationship afterward. During one session, my therapist asked, "Why are you treating his ability to deceive you as evidence that you failed?" I didn't have an answer. Trusting your partner isn't stupidity, she said. The question now is what you do with what you know. That helped me stop searching the past for the exact moment I should have discovered everything. Ethan had worked hard to hide it. That was his responsibility. Work settled down too. My manager never treated me differently after Ethan showed up at the office. And a few weeks later, I received a small raise that had already been under discussion. I bought a new desk, replaced the headphones Ethan had destroyed, left the gaming console for later. Daniel tried to convince me to download a dating app. I lasted 11 minutes. I'm not ready. Fair. Being alone didn't feel like a problem anymore. Then Ethan contacted me one last time from another unfamiliar number. "Claire, please read this before blocking me." He wrote that he'd been struggling since the wedding. His relationship with Olivia was over. He was living with his parents, and several friends had stopped speaking to him. Then kissed the final paragraph. "I hope someday you understand that what you did destroyed my life. I made mistakes, but you didn't have to abandon me when everything fell apart." I read it twice. 8 months of lies had become mistakes. His consequences had become something I'd done to him. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. A few days later, I was assembling a small table for my balcony when Daniel called to check in. By then, most of the boxes were gone, my books were on the shelves, my keys were on the counter, and nothing in the room belonged to Ethan. After we hung up, I stepped onto the balcony. The new apartment is smaller than the old one. The kitchen barely has enough counter space, and the bedroom closet is ridiculous. But every night when I lock the door, I know exactly whose life I'm walking into. Mine. Nobody is taking secret calls in another room. Nobody is planning a wedding behind my back. Nobody is telling another woman that I'm just a roommate while coming home and telling me he loves me. Ethan wanted me to believe I destroyed his future. I didn't. I just stopped protecting the lie he built it on. And for the first time in 4 years, whatever comes next belongs entirely to me.